Two Iranian nationals who were part of a prisoner swap with the US have arrived in Tehran. Mehrdad Moin Ansari and Reza Sarhangpur were welcomed by family members on Monday. They're among 5 Iranians freed in the US. Their release follows a deal mediated by Qatar. The agreement included the release of 5 US prisoners who had been held in Iran. It also included unblocking $6 billion of Iranian funds that were frozen in South Korea.
I finally get to breathe in my homeland. It was tougher for my family rather than me. It was a difficult situation for them. My mother right now is hospitalized due to the pressure she was faced.
Meanwhile, 5 American citizens jailed in Iran for years have landed in an airport near Washington. Iran had accused the 5 dual nationals of spying, but the US says they were wrongfully detained. Let's bring in Heidi Joe Castro, who's waiting for the Americans at an airport in Washington, D.C. And so, Heidi, we understand they've arrived now. Take us through the process.
Yeah, Sammy, and a U.S. official says that this plane that departed Doha carrying the 5 Iranian-American prisoners that were freed, plus 2 family members who are now allowed for the first time to leave Iran, all told 7 Americans have arrived now on U.S. soil after this long ordeal. Now, this flight has really happened under tight government wrap. They have not said exactly which airport that this plane landed in. We are at Dulles International, which is the most likely one. And we're still waiting to see pictures of this arrival, which is all very important, of course, to see these Americans reunited with their families. And it is a pivotal moment in this long, delicate, and complicated deal between Iran and the U.S. And of course, we put that together with those images we've already seen in Tehran of the 2 Iranian prisoners who were released from American detention. And all told, it is a moment of very rare cooperation between these 2 hostile nations. It is one that was arrived at not by talking between the 2 countries themselves. Iranian officials and U.S. officials never exchanged a word in the 2 years leading to this moment. It was something that was facilitated by third parties like Qatar, but a moment that really many are celebrating as a conclusion to the ordeal of all parties involved.
All right, now that we've got pictures of them having been freed, they're back on the U.S. soil. How is that impacting the debate, the controversy over this deal back in the U.S.?
Yeah, it is a difficult decision that U.S. President Joe Biden says he had to take to secure the freedom of these 5 Americans. And it is one that knowingly the White House made that it may be unpopular, especially among Biden's critics, Republican members of Congress who have come out to criticize the announcement of this deal. In particular, their criticism focusing on the $6 billion of Iranian assets that the U.S. agreed to unfreeze as part of the deal. There's fear among Republicans that this money may be used by Iran for malign purposes and not just for the humanitarian needs of buying food or medicine, as the deal stipulates. There's also concern that among the Iranians who had been facing U.S. prison time, 2 decided to remain living in the United States. And there are some Republicans who say that they may pose a national security risk, though it is notable, and the White House has emphasized, that the Iranians who face these charges were charged with sanctions violations, non-violent crimes. But certainly now having those 5 detained Americans in Iran back on this side, back in the U.S., is a victory for those families and a moment where compassion was really allowed to shine, and something that we'll likely hear discussed more as a success, as a great moment of celebration by the White House.
All right, good stuff there. Heidi Joe Castro, thanks so much for that. Majid Al-Ansari is the spokesman for Qatar's foreign ministry and advisor to the Prime Minister. He says the 2-year negotiations for the exchange were challenging.
At many points, there was no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to these mediations. However, in the past 2 years and in the past months, we've, through a lot of visits to both DC, Tehran, and indirect negotiations and direct negotiations that were held in various places around the world, and with our partners in the Sultanate of Oman and the United States and Iran, we worked along finding a resolution to this. And I think one of the main difficulties that we were able to get through is making the technical side of this deal ready at the right time, so all things can happen at the same time and make sure that everything happens without a glitch. Both sides during the negotiations went through a lot of difficulty to get the final language that was approved over the financial humanitarian channel, and also over the prisoner exchange and the way it took place. And there was a lot of very clear guidelines on what should be done and what was done, and this is what we have seen here today. And therefore we were not that worried that a last minute thing might happen and sabotage the whole deal. However, we do understand, of course, that it was not an easy task, and that in both sides there are a lot of questions. But I do believe that the agreements that have been reached is quite robust. It has taken a lot of time and effort, a lot of discussions over this to make sure that we have an agreement that can stand, that can withstand these criticisms, and this is what we are seeing right now.